Areena.
This week, we're asking why foreigners are less likely to vote in local elections and explaining why they should.
Hello and welcome to All Points North. I'm Egan Richardson.
And I'm Zena Iovino. Today we're diving into a bit of a reality check for political parties as we head into the local elections this Sunday.
Well, as we've tried to emphasise in all our election content, most people can vote in the election, whether they're Finnish citizens or not, but many don't bother. And that's a growing problem for democracy because there are more and more foreign voters in Finland.
Since the last municipal election, there are now tens of thousands more foreigners eligible to vote compared to then, and that's swelling the so-called foreign vote of non-citizens to about 260,000. But foreign background voters, that is those whose native language is not Finnish, Swedish or Sami, are much less active than the general population.
In some places, like Vantaa, the foreign background vote is as high as 16% of the electorate. But non-voters are missing out. Taking part in elections offers a really important way to feel part of Finnish society. As long as you've lived here for 2 years, you can definitely vote. If you're from certain European countries, the period is as short as 51 days. But let's play a clip from two people who moved here from abroad and shared their thoughts with Yle on how voting helps them feel better connected with their new home country.
I would say suddenly more responsibility because it's easier to be, in a way still a guest in the country and know that you don't really have control. So even if there are things you're unhappy, you realize that you can't really do anything about it. But then when you get a letter, you really start to think about your actions, and you do play a role in how the city works and how people are welcomed in the city. Just a bigger sense of responsibility that, I do play a role now and I should think about and know more about how the city runs and how Finland runs.
Yes, I'm going to vote. I recently took the Yle test for the candidates in your webpage, and I'm excited that I will be able to show my support on a candidate that reflects my views.
So this is a great opportunity for foreigners living here to have a say in how their cities are run. We should point out here all the ways these elections can influence your daily life, because it's not the national parliament in Helsinki that we're voting for this time. These are local councils up and down the country that do wield substantial influence.
They do. Local councillors also oversee urban planning, parks, recreational facilities, municipal taxation, and even sports. In other words, your vote matters because it can make a difference in how your local area is run. And that's not to mention the regional county elections for bodies that control health and social care across the country, but not here in the capital, where the council still does that too.
But how big is that gap between turnout among the general population and those with a foreign background? In the last local election 4 years ago, just 23% cast ballots compared to 55% of Finnish-speaking voters.
To dig deeper into this, I spoke with political scientist Josefina Sipinen, who's done extensive research on diversity in politics. She pointed out that while legal eligibility is one thing, actual participation and representation are another.
So already when we look at statistics from 2008 onwards, in each election, this gap is growing, and now it is growing again. So this is what we see.
So we've seen talk lately in the press about Finland potentially being in the middle of a democracy crisis in terms of this low engagement level among foreign communities in local politics. What's your take on that?
The democracy crisis is getting, there is this new dimension to it when the population is changing and becoming more and more diverse in this sense. And clearly it takes time for the system to adapt to this. So basically the underrepresentation of foreign language speakers on candidate lists has increased in comparison to what it was.
And there we heard from Josefina Sipinen.
We've heard a lot about how parties are reaching or failing to reach these new voters. Political researcher Juha Hjelm from the University of Helsinki didn't mince her words this week when talking to the Daily Helsingin Sanomat. She said Finnish parties have failed to wake up to the growing number of foreign language speakers among voters.
Yeah, she made an interesting point. Vuorelma said political campaigning gives little to no consideration for foreign language communities. Campaign messaging tends to focus heavily on Finnish and Swedish. Issues that matter specifically to foreign language groups are largely absent from party programs.
And that's an important point. Foreign language speakers aren't a single unified group. People from different language backgrounds and neighbourhoods may have very different political concerns. But Vuorelma pointed out that local councils don't reflect this diversity. Take Helsinki, for example, the capital. The city council has very poor representation of people whose mother tongue is neither Finnish nor Swedish.
Some say that Finland is facing a democratic crisis as demographic shifts play an important role in this year's vote.
So, to recap how things stand in this election, did you know that under 3% of candidates have a foreign background, which means their mother tongue is something other than Finnish or Swedish or Sami? But when you look at the eligible voters, that number jumps to 9%.
So if you're listening to this and deciding that maybe you'd like to vote, perhaps for the first time, you really should check out our election compass. It's at vaalikone.yle.fi, and it allows you to test candidates in your area against a series of statements to see which of them align closest to your views.
The compass gives a list of candidates that you might agree with, and you can then further filter by party, gender, or even native language. So if you do want to see the foreign candidates, you can select Other under language, and that will give all the candidates whose native language is neither Finnish nor Swedish. Now, you might not have noticed the elections much recently, as there has been another topic in the news this week. Donald Trump's on-off imposition of tariffs on much of the world has dominated the news agenda and sent markets into a tailspin.
Finland has been relatively quiet about the tariffs themselves, preferring to respond as a bloc alongside its EU partners. But the economic turbulence is having an effect on Finnish investors, consumers, and politicians alike.
We thought we'd take a look at the issue from a grassroots perspective to see what retail investors in Finland are doing and what they should do as market turmoil spreads. I spoke to Sari Lounasmäki from the Finnish Foundation for Share Promotion to find out if she thinks the world has changed completely in the last week.
Well, Donald Trump himself has of course changed the world a lot, and especially this announcement with the tariffs. And I think this is unusual in a way that usually when we've had stock market crises or big changes, they have been much more complex phenomenon like pandemic or financial crisis with a lot of different issues, whereas this time it's more decision made by one individual that they inform the market about, and then it also means in a positive way that another decision could then bring us back to more normal situation.
Okay, so there's a chance of normality again, but what would you say to people looking at their share account at the moment, their stocks, and thinking, oh my God, there's a lot of red there, everything's gone down. Do I need to cash this in? Is this different to previous turbulence in the stock market? Should people sell up and hold the cash now, even if they're losing money?
It's a good time now to ask yourself, if you're in it for the long haul or if you actually need cash in the short term. And I think the response, what you should do, varies based on what the individual characteristics are, and also what type of risk a person is willing to take if they have a well-diversified portfolio that they're happy with, or if they maybe notice that their portfolio has reacted very strongly compared what the market reaction had been. But for stock market, it's normal that there are different reasons why the prices go up and down. And the fact that the share prices are going down is not a reason to withdraw from the market or a reason to sell by itself if you're otherwise in it for the long haul. So in that way, I would say don't panic unless you've invested borrowed money. If you actually have to get the money back soon, then it's maybe a good time to look into reducing the balance that you have on the stock market.
Can I ask you about the real economy, if I could put it like that? Is there going to be some impact on that in the near future for people in Finland looking to, I guess, buy something online, or worried about their job, or worried about their company's future. What do you think the impact is going to be of this current situation?
I think in Finland we have been very pro-globalization, pro really like international things, and like we've kind of thought that things are going to develop a certain way the whole time. And now we've had to wake up to the fact that that's not necessarily the case. There is going to be protectionism, like so some countries want to have these big tariffs. Like now, United States has started the game, then China has like responded to it, and we're waiting for many other markets to respond and to see what's going to happen. And it's not going to be what we were used to. That really what we're used to is that things are going to be done in the area where they're best suited, and now it seems like it's kind of everybody for themselves. Like, so that's a very new situation, but I think that's not going to be forever. I think at some point we're going to get back to the previous path towards globalization, but I think for a short term, now there are definitely going to be more barriers, whether it is for people moving to other countries, people purchasing from other countries, or even investing.
Sari Lounasmäki there, telling us how she views the latest fluctuations in the stock market after Donald Trump's announcement of trade tariffs.
And now for a quick roundup of what else has been making the headlines in Finland this week. Finnish Minister for Foreign Affairs Elina Valtonen described her meeting with her U.S. counterpart, Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Washington, D.C. as productive. Valtonen said discussions included the potential sale of Finnish icebreakers to the United States.
MPs are considering an extension of the controversial pushback border law into 2026. The legislation allows border guards to bar entry to would-be asylum seekers if they're sent to the border as part of Russian hybrid threat tactics.
National Coalition Party MP Pia Kauma was condemned by party colleagues for a meeting of Russian senator in Tashkent in Uzbekistan. Kauma was in the city in her capacity as the chair of the Inter-Parliamentary Union of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. And she said she had met the senator in order to convey her and the OSCE's support for Ukraine.
Finnish Lapland is drawing more tourists. The number of visitors to Finland from December to February was up 7% compared to the same period last year, but spending increased by 15% year on year, according to Business Finland.
The parent company for Finlayson, Makia and Valila has filed for bankruptcy owing to too much debt.
Yle reported that an Indian skeptic living in Finland who was arrested by Interpol recently was also convicted by a Finnish court of aggravated embezzlement. Under the threat of arrest under blasphemy laws, the activist fled to Finland in 2012 and entered voluntary exile.
Finland is reviewing laws granting some drivers a license at 17, that's a year before schedule, after a spate of deadly accidents involving teenagers.
Finns' trust in the country's comprehensive education quality has diminished compared to previous years. That's according to a recent survey commissioned by the Finnish Business and Policy Forum, EVA. 8 years ago, 70% of respondents considered Finnish comprehensive education the best in the world. Now, only 44% hold that view.
Finland shivered under a snowstorm this week as a band of heavy snow and high winds hit western regions. Some 5 centimeters of the white stuff fell in places, with motorists warned to take care on slippery road surfaces.
And finally, Olivia and Oliver were Finland's most popular baby names last year. Among non-Finnish and Swedish-speaking families, Sophia and Mohammed topped the list.
You can join the conversation too. We want to hear what's on your mind. Just leave us a voice note or text on WhatsApp. Our number is +358 44 421 0909.
We recently talked about the best place to live in Finland on this show, and that topic is still animating our listeners. We had one email this week suggesting Öja as a candidate, and I have to say that was a new one for me.
Me too. I did look it up though, and it looked pretty idyllic. It's a large island off the central Ostrobothnian coast, so near Kokkola and that kind of area.
Right. It looks pretty rural, but each to their own. If you do have any opinions on where is the best place to live in Finland, do get in touch. We're always happy to hear from you.
Indeed we are. And there was really only one possibility for our arena viewing tip this week. It was a no-brainer. It's our very own All Points North election special from last Friday.
If you haven't tuned in to watch yet, you're missing out. Our colleague Ronan Brown dives into what's shaping these elections with a panel of APN listeners. So whether you're a political junkie or just trying to figure out who to vote for before you hit the polls on Sunday, we've got you covered.
It really is an excellent show. That's about all we've got time for this week, though. Do you have any special plans for the weekend?
Well, I'll be shivering from the cold and staying indoors, I think. What about you?
Something similar, I guess. I might pop down to my local polling station to get some Varley Carvit. There's a lot of good causes trying to sell the cakes and stuff around that, so it's a nice chance to get some cakes while doing some good. But that aside, I'll stay indoors. But lastly, I'd like to say a big thanks to Juha Hjelm, our audio engineer this week, and to you, the listeners, for listening to and supporting the show. Bye.
Bye.